The massive ships came from the sky without warning, blocking out the sun over Earth's major cities. Commander Vexter stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking down at the blue planet with contempt in his eyes. He had conquered 17 worlds for the Zarkonian Empire, and Earth would be the easiest victory yet. "Sir, the human governments are requesting negotiation," his communications officer reported. Vexter laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the command center. "Tell them we do not negotiate with primitives. Begin the invasion across Earth." People looked up in horror as the alien warships descended. The Zarkonians had superior weapons, advanced shields, and armies that had crushed resistance on dozens of planets. Their infantry wore powered armor that could withstand rockets. Their scanners could detect life forms from orbit. Their energy weapons could level entire city blocks. Captain Jake Morrison was in his office at the Wilderness Training Facility when the first reports came through. He was a tall man with weathered skin and calm eyes, someone who had spent 20 years learning every forest and mountain range on Earth. Now he watched the news feeds showing alien troops landing in New York, London, and Tokyo. His phone rang. It was Major Lisa Carter from Earth Defense Command. "Jake, we need you now," she said, her voice tight with urgency. "The conventional forces cannot hold the cities. We are initiating Operation Deepwood." Jake felt his heart pound faster. Operation Deepwood was the plan nobody thought they would ever use. It meant abandoning the cities and taking the fight to the wilderness. "Understood," he replied. "I will mobilize my teams within hours." The retreat began. Military units pulled back from the cities, heading for the vast forest that covered much of North America, the Appalachian Mountains, the Pacific Northwest, the forests of Canada. All became staging grounds for human resistance. Lieutenant Katie Barnes led her squad through the Olympic National Forest, moving quickly but carefully. She was an expert tracker who could read signs in nature that most people missed. Behind her, 20 soldiers carried supplies deep into the woods. "Keep moving," she called back to them. "We need to be invisible before their scanners sweep this area." The team reached a valley surrounded by massive evergreen trees. Katie checked her equipment and nodded. This would be their base. "Start setting up the camouflage nets," she ordered. "Everything has to blend with the forest. No metal showing. No straight lines." Her soldiers worked efficiently, covering their equipment with branches and moss. Within 2 hours, the camp was completely hidden from aerial view back at the Zarkonian command ship. Vexter received reports that confused him. "The humans are retreating into their forests?" he asked, unable to believe it. "They are hiding among the trees like animals?" His tactical officer brought up a map showing human forces dispersed across wilderness areas. "Yes, sir. Our scans show small groups scattered throughout these green zones." Vexter burst into laughter. "This is their strategy? To cower in the woods?" He turned to his officers. "Send ground forces to flush them out. This will be over in days." The other Zarkonian commanders joined his laughter. None of them had ever fought in dense forests. Their empire conquered desert worlds, ice planets, and urban centers. They had advanced technology. What did trees matter? Sergeant Ryan Cole was positioning weapons in the Appalachian forests when he heard the news that Zarkonian troops were coming. He was a weapons specialist who understood that sometimes old methods work better than new ones. "They are sending troops into our forest," he said to his team. "Good. Let them come." He showed his soldiers how to set up positions using the natural terrain. Trees became cover. Rocks became firing positions. The hills and valleys created natural ambush points. "Remember your training," Ryan told them. "In the forest, silence is better than firepower. Patience beats speed. And we know this ground better than they ever will." Major Lisa Carter coordinated the overall strategy from a hidden bunker deep in the Rocky Mountains. She watched satellite feeds showing Zarkonian troops assembling at the edges of forest zones. "They think we are beaten," she said to her staff. "They think hiding in the forest is cowardice." "Let them think that," replied one of her officers. "We trained for this," Lisa nodded, "for years." Earth's military had prepared for the possibility of invasion. They studied guerrilla warfare, wilderness survival, and unconventional tactics. Now all that training would be tested. The first Zarkonian patrol entered the forest in Washington state. 20 alien soldiers in heavy armor marched between the trees. Their scanners active. The patrol leader, a veteran named Krell, felt confident. His armor could withstand any primitive weapon. His energy rifle could blast through steel. Spread out, he commanded his troops. Find the humans and eliminate them. The patrol moved deeper into the forest. The trees grew thicker, blocking out the sunlight. Their scanners started giving strange readings too. Much interference from the dense vegetation. Krell felt uneasy. The forest was too quiet. No birds sang. No animals moved. Just silence and shadows. "Command, this is Patrol 7. He spoke into his communicator. "We are encountering heavy scanner interference. Visibility is limited." Static crackled back at him. The signal was weak here. Then, something whistled through the air. One of his soldiers fell, an arrow through the gap in his armor. Before Krell could react, more arrows came from different directions. His troops fired wildly at the trees, their energy weapons scorching bark but hitting nothing. "Contact! We are under attack!" Krell shouted into his comm. Multiple hostiles in the... His transmission cut off as the forest swallowed his voice on the Zarkonian command ship. The communications officer looked up at Vexter with worry. "Sir, Patrol 7 has gone silent." Vexter frowned. "Send another patrol to find them." But deep in the Olympic forest, Katie Barnes and her team were already gone. They moved through the trees like shadows, leaving no trace. The Zarkonian patrol would find nothing but empty forest and fallen soldiers. Jake Morrison received the report of the first successful ambush. He looked at the map showing dozens of forest zones across the continent. Each one held teams like Katie's, patient, skilled, and ready. "This is just the beginning," he said quietly. "They wanted to fight us on Earth. Now, they will learn what that really means." The Galactic Council broadcast reached Earth that evening. Alien leaders from across the galaxy mocked humanity's retreat into the wilderness. The humans cower in their forest like frightened beasts, one council member declared. The mighty Zarkonian Empire will sweep them away. But in forests across the world, human soldiers listened to those words and smiled. The aliens did not understand. The wilderness was not a hiding place. It was home, and they were about to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Commander Vexter stared at the casualty reports with growing anger. In 3 days, he had lost contact with 12 patrols. 80 more reported attacks before their communications failed. Nearly 200 Zarkonian soldiers were missing in Earth's forests. "This is impossible," he growled at his officers. "How can primitives with bows and arrows defeat our troops?" His tactical officer brought up thermal scans of the forests. The images showed nothing but wildlife and vegetation. No heat signatures from human soldiers. No equipment readings, just endless green. "Send a full battalion," Vexter ordered. 500 troops. "If there are humans in those trees, we will find them." The battalion landed at the edge of the Cascade Mountain Range in Oregon. Their commander, Colonel Drax, assembled his troops with confidence. He wore the medals of 10 campaigns and had never known defeat. "These forests are nothing," he told his soldiers. "We have fought in ice storms and radioactive deserts. Move forward and crush any resistance." The battalion marched into the forest in formation. Their heavy boots crushed the underbrush. Their armor glinted in the patches of sunlight filtering through the trees. They expected to find scared humans hiding in caves. Ryan Cole watched them from a ridge half a mile away. He used simple binoculars. Nothing that would give off an electronic signature. Beside him, 30 soldiers waited in complete silence. "Look at them," whispered one of his team members. "They march like they are on parade." Ryan nodded. "They do not understand this terrain. Wait for my signal." The Zarkonian battalion reached a narrow valley between two steep hills. The forest here was dense with old-growth trees. Colonel Drax checked his scanner again. Still nothing. Then the world exploded around them. Trees that had been rigged to fall came crashing down, blocking both ends of the valley. Rocks tumbled from the hillsides. Smoke grenades filled the air with thick clouds that confused their sensors. And from the hills above, human soldiers opened fire. The Zarkonians could not see their attackers. Their energy weapons lit up the forest, starting fires and destroying trees, but hitting no targets. Meanwhile, bullets and arrows came from a dozen directions. Soldiers fell as projectiles found gaps in their armor. "Return fire!" Colonel Drax shouted, but his troops were panicking. They had never fought an enemy they could not see. Ryan's team moved through the smoke like ghosts. They wore clothes that matched the forest colors. Their faces were painted with mud and ash. They struck hard and then vanished before the aliens could respond. After 30 minutes of chaos, Ryan gave the signal to withdraw. His team melted back into the forest, leaving the Zarkonian battalion trapped and confused in the valley. When the smoke cleared, Colonel Drax counted his losses. 70 soldiers dead or wounded. 0 human casualties because they had engaged no enemy directly. He sent a desperate message back to the command ship. "The humans are not fighting like any force we have encountered. They use the terrain itself as a weapon. Our scanners cannot detect them. Our armor is being bypassed by primitive projectiles. Request immediate support." Vexter's face turned dark with rage when he received the message. Primitive weapons? He lost 70 troops to arrows and rocks? But the reports kept coming from other forest zones. In the Appalachian Mountains, an entire armored column had been destroyed when humans collapsed a bridge over a ravine. In the Amazon, Zarkonian troops were getting sick from diseases their immune systems had never encountered. In Canada, soldiers were freezing because their environmental suits were not designed for extreme cold combined with wet conditions. Katie Barnes led her team through a successful raid on a Zarkonian supply depot that night. They moved in complete darkness, using night vision equipment that was generations behind alien technology but perfectly suited for the forest. Her team disabled the guards silently, using tranquilizer darts made from earth plants. They stole weapons, medical supplies, and communication equipment. Before leaving, Katie planted false intelligence, suggesting human forces were massing in the wrong area. "Good work," she told her soldiers as they disappeared back into the trees. "They will chase shadows while we strike somewhere else." Jake Morrison coordinated attacks across 6 different states from his hidden command post. He used old-fashioned radio systems that the Zarkonians had not bothered to monitor. The aliens expected advanced technology. They were not listening to simple broadcasts on ancient frequencies. Team 7 reports success in Montana. One of his communications officers reported. Team 12 has neutralized the scanning station in Idaho. Team 3 asks permission to engage the convoy in Colorado. Jake studied his maps carefully. Each pin represented a small unit of human soldiers. Together, they formed a network that covered thousands of square miles. The Zarkonians could not be everywhere at once. "Tell Team 3 to proceed," he ordered, "and have Team 9 prepare to hit their landing zone in Wyoming. We keep them off balance." Major Lisa Carter met with her staff to review the strategy. The first week had gone better than expected. But she knew the Zarkonians would adapt. They will bring in specialized troops, she predicted. Hunters who are trained for difficult terrain. Let them come, replied her intelligence officer. Every day they spend in our forests. We learn more about their weaknesses. They rely too much on their scanners. Their armor is heavy and slows them down, and they do not know how to move quietly. Lisa nodded. Keep training our teams in advanced camouflage techniques and start teaching them how to use captured alien weapons. If we can turn their own technology against them, it will be a powerful message. In the forests, human soldiers were indeed learning. They studied fallen Zarkonian equipment. They figured out how the energy weapons worked. They learned to identify different types of alien troops by their armor markings. Ryan Cole's team had captured an intact scanner from a destroyed patrol. His technical specialist, a young soldier named Danny Shaw, was taking it apart. It works by detecting electromagnetic signatures. Danny explained, but organic material confuses it. Too much interference. So their best technology is useless here. Ryan said with satisfaction. What about their communications? Short range only in dense forest, Danny replied. The trees block their signals. They have to rely on line of sight transmission. Ryan smiled. That was valuable information. It meant Zarkonian units could be isolated and cut off from support that night. The Galactic Council held an emergency session. Reports from the Zarkonian invasion were causing concern. Other species were questioning the strategy. Perhaps negotiation would be wiser, suggested one. Council member, a being from a peaceful trading world. Nonsense, snapped the Zarkonian representative. We are facing minor setbacks against guerrilla tactics. Commander Vexter will crush this resistance, but privately. Even the Zarkonian leadership was worried. They had expected Earth to fall within days. Instead, weeks had passed and the situation was getting worse. Military analysts could not understand how humans were moving through forests without being detected, how they coordinated attacks across vast distances, how they survived in wilderness that seemed hostile even to the natives. Jake Morrison stood in the forest that night, listening to the sounds around him. Owls hooting, wind in the trees, a stream running over rocks. These were the sounds he had known his whole life. The sounds that confused and frightened the aliens. A messenger arrived with news from Katie's team in Washington. Sir, Lieutenant Barnes reports that Zarkonian morale is breaking. Their troops are afraid to enter the deep forest. Some are refusing orders. Jake allowed himself a small smile. Fear was a powerful weapon. The mighty Zarkonian Empire, conquerors of 17 worlds, were learning to fear Earth's trees. Tell all teams to increase pressure, he ordered. Hit them every night. Give them no rest. Make them understand that this is our world, and they are not welcome here. The message went out across the resistance network, in forests across the planet. Human soldiers prepared for another night of hunting, and in the darkness between the trees, the Zarkonians were beginning to understand that they had made a terrible mistake. The Shadow Legion arrived on Earth with a reputation that terrified most species in the galaxy. These were the Zarkonian Empire's elite hunters, specialists who tracked dangerous prey across 100 worlds. Their commander, Krelzak, was legendary for never losing a target. Vexter met him personally when the Shadow Legion ships landed. I do not care how they hide, Vexter said, his voice cold with fury. Find these forest commandos and eliminate them. My regular troops are worthless in this terrain. Krelzak nodded, his scaled face showing no emotion. We have hunted in jungles, swamps, and radioactive wastelands. Earth's forests will not protect these humans. The Shadow Legion deployed in teams of 10. Each group equipped with advanced tracking technology. They moved differently than regular troops, quieter, more careful. They used camouflage and studied the terrain before Advancing Katie Barnes received intelligence about the new threat from Major Lisa Carter. These are not ordinary soldiers. Lisa warned over the secure channel. They are trained hunters. Do not underestimate them. Katie gathered her team and shared the information. We changed tactics. No more ambush in the same locations. We move camp every night, and we watch for traps. Her soldiers understood. The game had changed. The Shadow Legion's first operation was in the forests of Northern California. Krelzak's team moved through the trees. Their scanners set to detect the slightest movement. They found the remains of a human camp, cold fire pits, and discarded equipment. They were here recently. Krelzak observed, fan out, and searched for tracks. His hunters spread through the forest with practiced skill. One of them found a footprint in soft mud. Another discovered broken branches that indicated a path. This way. Krelzak signaled. The team moved forward, following the trail, but Jake Morrison had anticipated this. He had trained his teams to leave false trails, paths that led nowhere or into danger. The Shadow Legion was following signs that Katie's team had deliberately created. The trail led to a clearing beside a stream. Krelzak's scanners suddenly lit up with multiple signatures. Humans ahead, he whispered to his team. Surround the area. The Shadow Legion moved into position on Krelzak's signal. They rushed the clearing from all sides. They found backpacks hanging from tree branches. Heat packs inside generated thermal signatures. Audio devices played recordings of human voices. But no actual soldiers. Decoys, Krelzak snarled. They knew we were coming before he could issue new orders. The forest erupted with gunfire. Real human soldiers had been waiting in position surrounding the clearing. The Shadow Legion had walked into a trap. Ryan Cole's team poured fire into the clearing from elevated positions in the trees. They had spent hours climbing into the canopy, places the aliens never thought to look from above. They had perfect shots at the Shadow Legion below. Krelzak's team scattered, returning fire, but their weapons were designed for ground combat. Shooting upward into dense branches was nearly impossible. 3 of his hunters fell in the first minute. Withdraw. Krelzak ordered. His team retreated, leaving their dead behind. Ryan and his soldiers were gone before the Shadow Legion could regroup. They used rope systems to move through the treetops, traveling hundreds of yards without touching the ground. The losses shook Krelzak. He had never been ambushed so completely. These humans were not just hiding in the forest. They were part of it, in the Appalachian Mountains. Another Shadow Legion team encountered a different kind of problem. They were tracking human forces through a valley when a sudden storm hit. Rain poured down, turning the ground to mud. Lightning struck nearby trees. The temperature dropped rapidly. The Shadow Legion's environmental suits kept them dry, but could not handle the combination of cold rain and rough terrain. They began to slow down, struggling through the mud. Meanwhile, the human soldiers they were chasing had already found shelter in caves they knew from previous training. They waited out the storm in comfort while the aliens suffered. When the storm passed, Katie's team emerged and found the Shadow Legion team exhausted and disoriented. The fight was brief. The humans took prisoners and disappeared before reinforcements could arrive. Jake Morrison interrogated one of the captured Shadow Legion soldiers through a translator. Your people think they are superior, Jake said calmly. You think advanced technology makes you unbeatable, but you never learned the most important lesson. What lesson? The alien asked, confused. That the land itself chooses who survives, and this is our land. Major Lisa Carter was coordinating a massive operation across multiple forest zones. Intelligence suggested the Zarkonians were planning to use orbital bombardment to destroy the forests. She needed to strike first, target their supply lines. She ordered, if they cannot feed their troops or resupply their equipment, they cannot sustain an offensive. Teams across the continent began hitting Zarkonian supply convoys. They destroyed fuel depots using controlled fires that looked like natural forest blazes. They contaminated water supplies at alien camps. They sabotaged landing zones so ships could not safely deliver cargo riding coal. Led a particularly daring raid on a major Zarkonian forward base. His team infiltrated at night, using nothing but forest materials, mud for camouflage, leaves for cover, and stolen alien access codes they had obtained from captured equipment. They reached the base's power generator and planted explosives made from fertilizer and fuel. The resulting explosion destroyed not just the generator, but also the ammunition storage nearby. The entire base was abandoned within hours. The Galactic Council watched the deteriorating situation with growing concern. Casualty reports from the Zarkonian invasion force were staggering. Over 3,000 soldiers lost in just 3 weeks. Equipment losses in the millions, and the humans showed no signs of surrendering. "This is unprecedented," one council member stated. "The Zarkonian Empire has never suffered such losses against a species they deemed primitive." The Zarkonian representative tried to maintain confidence. "Commander Vexter has requested permission to use orbital weapons. Once the forests are destroyed, the humans will have nowhere to hide. And how many civilian casualties will that cause?" Another council member challenged. "The Galactic Treaty forbids indiscriminate bombardment of inhabited worlds." Arguments erupted across the council chamber. Some species secretly admired Earth's resistance. Others worried that a Zarkonian defeat would shift the balance of power in the galaxy back on Earth. Krelzak made a personal report to Vexter. "These humans are unlike any prey I have hunted," he admitted. "They do not just hide in the forest. They become the forest. They know every tree, every stream, every cave. They can move without sound. They can survive without equipment, and they fight with a determination I have never seen." Vexter's face darkened. "Are you saying the Shadow Legion cannot defeat them?" "I am saying we are hunting predators on their own hunting ground," Krelzak replied. "Every advantage we have is negated by the terrain. Our scanners fail. Our armor is too heavy. Our weapons attract attention. Meanwhile, they watch us from places we cannot see and strike when we are vulnerable. Then we will remove the terrain." Vexter decided. "Prepare for orbital bombardment. If we cannot fight them in the forests, we will burn the forest to ash." But Jake Morrison had already prepared for this possibility. Hidden across the wilderness were anti-orbital weapons that Earth had been developing in secret. Surface-to-space missiles disguised as rock formations. Laser batteries camouflaged as dead trees. Earth scientists had been busy while the soldiers fought. Katie received coded orders to prepare her teams for the next phase. "They are going to try to destroy our forests," she told her soldiers. "But we are not going to let them. Every team will activate defensive positions when the attack begins." Her troops nodded with grim determination. The forest had become more than just a battlefield. It was home, shelter, and ally. They would protect it. Ryan stood on a mountain ridge, looking out over the vast wilderness below. Somewhere in those trees were thousands of human soldiers, all waiting for the next move. "Let them bring their orbital weapons," he said quietly. "They will learn that fire cannot kill what has already been tested by fire." The galaxy was about to witness something remarkable. A species that refused to abandon its home, no matter the cost. The morning sun rose over forests, scarred by battle, but still standing. Zarkonian forces were scattered, demoralized, and running low on supplies. Vexter knew his grand assault had failed, but pride would not let him admit defeat. One final push. He told his remaining commanders, "I will personally lead the attack. We end this today." He assembled his elite guard, 5,000 of his best troops, and prepared to land on Earth. If his regular forces could not win, he would show them. How a true warrior fought. Major Lisa Carter received intelligence about Vexter's plan from their alien allies on the Galactic Council. He is coming down himself," she told Jake Morrison. "This is our chance to end the war in one stroke." Jake studied the map showing Vexter's likely landing zone. The Zarkonian commander would choose open ground near the forest edge, a place where he could deploy his forces effectively. We let him land. Jake decided, we let him come to us, and then we spring the final trap. He coordinated with Katie Barnes and Ryan Cole. This is what we trained for. Everything we have learned, every tactic we developed, we use now. Vexter wants a battle. We give him one he will never forget. The teams moved into position. Thousands of human soldiers spread across the forests surrounding the projected landing zone. They dug in, camouflaged their positions, and waited. Vexter's transport ship descended through Earth's atmosphere with an escort of fighters. The commander stood in full battle armor, ready to prove that the Zarkonian Empire could not be defeated by primitives. His ships landed in a large clearing in Montana. 5,000 troops deployed in perfect formation. Vexter addressed them with confidence. "These humans have used tricks and cowardice to delay us," he declared. "But now they face warriors led by a true commander. We march into their forests, and we do not stop until every human soldier is captured or eliminated." His troops cheered. They believed their commander's words. They believed victory was certain. The Zarkonian force began advancing toward the forest. Their scanners showed no immediate threats. Their formation was tight and disciplined. They expected ambush and were ready. What they did not expect was the scale of what awaited them. The forest edge erupted with fire, not ambush, but deliberate defensive positions. Human soldiers in fortified trenches and bunkers opened up with everything they had. Machine guns, rockets, artillery, and captured Zarkonian weapons. Vexter's formation staggered under the assault. He had never faced such concentrated firepower from humans before. His shields held, but his troops were taking casualties. "Forward," he ordered, overwhelmed them with numbers. The Zarkonian force charged. They crossed the open ground, firing their energy weapons. Some humans fell, but the defensive positions held. Then the second phase began. As Vexter's troops entered the forest, they found themselves in a maze of prepared defenses. Every tree hid a firing position. Every rise in the ground concealed a bunker. The humans had turned the entire forest into a fortress. Katie Barnes commanded the northern sector. Her teams fought with precision, using interlocking fields of fire that caught the aliens in crossfires. When the Zarkonians tried to flank, they ran into minefields. When they tried to advance, they faced withering gunfire from multiple directions. "Hold your positions," Katie called to her troops. "Make them pay for every yard." Ryan Cole's demolition teams were creating chaos in the Zarkonian rear. They had infiltrated behind enemy lines during the initial assault. Now they were destroying supply vehicles, cutting communication lines, and creating confusion. One group of Zarkonian soldiers found themselves cut off and surrounded. They radioed for support, but Ryan's team had jammed their frequencies. The aliens were alone in hostile territory. Jake Morrison watched the battle from a command post that gave him a view of the entire engagement. The trap was working perfectly. Vexter had brought his forces into a killing zone where every advantage belonged to Earth. "Send in the reserve teams," Jake ordered. "We encircle them completely." Fresh human troops moved through the forest using paths only they knew. They closed the circle around Vexter's forces. The Zarkonians were now trapped in unfamiliar terrain, surrounded by an enemy that could move and communicate freely. Vexter realized too late what had happened. This was not a desperate last stand by beaten humans. This was a carefully planned operation that used his own arrogance against him. "They lured us in," he said, understanding finally. "They wanted us to attack." His tactical officer nodded grimly. "Commander, we are taking heavy casualties. We must retreat." but retreat was no longer an option. Human forces had blocked every exit from the forest. The Zarkonians were experiencing what they had done to so many other species. Overwhelming force in an environment they did not understand. Kralzak fought alongside regular troops, his Shadow Legion training keeping him alive when others fell. But even he could see the battle was lost. The humans were not just fighting, they were hunting with the precision of apex predators on their home ground. He spotted Vexter trying to rally troops near a burning vehicle. Kralzak made his way to his commander. "We cannot win this," Kralzak said bluntly. "We are being destroyed. You must order a surrender before we lose everyone." Vexter looked around at the chaos. His elite troops were scattered and broken. The forests he had mocked were swallowing his army. And somewhere in those trees, human soldiers were moving closer. Jake Morrison approached the Zarkonian position under a white flag. He walked calmly through the burning battlefield, his weapon lowered but ready. Vexter saw him coming. A human in simple combat gear, not impressive armor or advanced technology. Just a soldier who knew his job. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of Earth Defense Forces." Jake called out, "Your invasion has failed. Your troops are surrounded. Surrender now, and I guarantee their safety under galactic law." Vexter felt rage and shame. To surrender to a primitive species was unthinkable, but to sacrifice thousands of soldiers for his pride was worse. "What are your terms?" he asked, his voice defeated. "Complete withdrawal from Earth," Jake stated. "All prisoners returned, reparations for damage caused, and Earth recognized as an independent sovereign world by the Galactic Council." Vexter had no choice. He transmitted the surrender order to his remaining forces. The battle ended. Human soldiers emerged from the forest to accept the Zarkonian surrender. They were professional, treating prisoners with respect. Even after weeks of brutal combat, Katie Barnes stood among the trees that had been her home during the war. They were scarred but standing. Like Earth itself, Ryan Cole helped process captured equipment. The Zarkonians were leaving behind weapons and technology. All of it would be studied, improving Earth's defenses for the future. Within days, the Galactic Council formally recognized Earth as a sovereign world. The Zarkonian Empire was ordered to pay reparations and withdraw all forces. More importantly, other species requested to study Earth's defensive tactics. Representatives from peaceful worlds arrived to meet with human military leaders. "We have watched your war with amazement," one ambassador said to Major Lisa Carter. "You defeated a superior force through knowledge of your world and unity of purpose. We wish to learn from you." Lisa nodded. "We will share our knowledge, but remember, our greatest weapon was not tactics or technology. It was fighting for our home." Jake Morrison was promoted to general and given command of Earth's Wilderness Warfare training program. Soldiers from across the galaxy came to learn how humans had turned forests into fortresses. Katie Barnes became an ambassador, teaching alien species about Earth's diverse environments. She showed them that every world had unique advantages if the inhabitants understood and respected them. Ryan Cole established a school in the Appalachian forests where the final battle had been fought. There, he trained the next generation of Earth defenders in unconventional warfare. Vexter faced judgment from his own people. The Zarkonian Empire was humiliated by the defeat. He lost his command and spent his remaining years as a reminder of what happened when arrogance replaced strategy. Months after the war, Jake stood in the Olympic forest where the first patrols had disappeared. The trees had regrown. Wildlife had returned. Nature was healing. A group of young alien cadets stood with him, learning about forest warfare. "You see these trees?" Jake asked them. "Your scanners tell you they are just vegetation. But to humans, they are cover, concealment, high ground, and home. Technology can be matched or overcome. But connection to your world, understanding of your environment, that is a weapon nothing can defeat." The cadets looked at the forest with new respect. Back on the Galactic Council, Earth's representative spoke before the assembled species. "We did not seek war," the representative said. "But when war came to our forests, our mountains, our home, we showed the galaxy something important, that those who truly know and love their world can never be conquered. Technology alone does not win wars. Understanding, adaptation, and the will to protect what matters, these are what bring victory." The council chamber was silent. Every species there had learned the lesson Earth taught in forests across Earth. Monuments were erected to honor those who fought. Simple stone markers among the trees, reminders that humanity's greatest strength was not in the cities they built, but in the wilderness they preserved. The warning came at dawn. Earth's satellite network detected Zarkonian warships moving into bombardment positions. Major Lisa Carter immediately activated the emergency protocols. "All teams, this is command." She broadcast on every channel. "Orbital attack imminent. Execute dispersal plan now." Across the forests, human soldiers moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for this moment. Teams split into smaller groups and headed for reinforced shelters deep underground. Civilians in nearby areas were evacuated through hidden tunnel networks that the Zarkonians knew nothing about. Jake Morrison watched the sky from a protected observation post. "They are really going to do it. They are going to try to burn our forests. Then we show them what happens when you threaten Earth," replied his communications officer. The first bombardment struck the Olympic National Forest. Energy beams from orbit slammed into the trees, creating massive explosions. Fires erupted across miles of woodland. The Zarkonians targeted every known location where human forces had been spotted, but the humans were already gone. The shelters held, and Earth had a surprise waiting from hidden positions across the wilderness. Anti-orbital weapons activated. Missile systems that looked like natural rock formations opened up. Laser batteries disguised as dead trees powered on. Earth had been preparing these defenses for months. The missiles streaked upward, targeting the Zarkonian bombardment ships. 3 warships took direct hits before they could react. Their shields flared and failed under the sustained assault. One ship lost power and began drifting out of position. Vex Thor stared in shock at his tactical display. "They have orbital weapons? How is this possible?" "Sir, multiple launch sites are active across the planet," his weapons officer reported. "They were completely hidden from our scans. Destroy them." Vexter ordered, but the weapons were spread across thousands of square miles, camouflaged to blend with the natural landscape. The Zarkonians had to choose between bombardment and self-defense. Katie Barnes emerged from her shelter to assess the damage. Large sections of forest were burning, but the bombardment had created something unexpected. The craters and burned areas formed new defensive positions. Trenches created by explosions, rock walls exposed by fire, clear fields of fire where dense forest once stood. "Get engineers to these positions," she ordered. "Turn these craters into fortifications. Use the burned timber for barriers." Her team moved quickly, adapting to the changed terrain. What the Zarkonians meant as destruction became new tactical advantages. Ryan Cole's demolition team had their own response to the bombardment. They identified the Zarkonian communication hub that was coordinating the orbital strikes. It was located in what the aliens thought was a secure zone, far from the forest. "We are going after it," Ryan told his team. "If we take out their communications, they cannot coordinate the bombardment." The raid was bold and dangerous. Ryan's team had to cross open ground to reach the hub. They moved at night, using every bit of cover available. When they reached the facility, they found it guarded by regular Zarkonian troops, not the elite Shadow Legion. The fight was quick and brutal. Ryan's soldiers had been training in close combat for weeks. They knew the weaknesses in Zarkonian armor. They knew how to move faster than the aliens expected. Within 20 minutes, the hub was theirs. Plant the charges, Ryan ordered. We have 5 minutes before reinforcements arrive. The explosives were set with precision. Ryan's team evacuated just as the Zarkonian reinforcements appeared. The explosion destroyed the entire facility, cutting off orbital coordination across 3 states. Without proper communication, the bombardment became scattered and ineffective. Zarkonian ships were hitting empty forest or even their own ground forces by mistake. Meanwhile, something unexpected was happening on the Galactic Council. Several alien species were secretly reaching out to Earth. They were impressed by humanity's resistance and worried about Zarkonian aggression. An encrypted message reached Major Lisa Carter from an unknown source. We are members of the Council who believe the Zarkonian invasion is unjust. We can provide you with technical specifications for their weapons and shields. We offer this aid because we see in humanity a strength that the galaxy needs. Lisa shared this development with Jake. We have allies now, species who respect what we're doing. Good, Jake replied. Because we need every advantage. The Zarkonians will not give up easily. He was right. Vexter was planning a massive ground assault. If orbital bombardment could not work, he would send his entire remaining force into the forests at once. 50,000 troops in a coordinated attack across every major wilderness zone. But Earth's intelligence network had infiltrated Zarkonian communications. They knew the plan. Before it was executed, Jake called a meeting of all team leaders through secure channels. They are coming with everything they have, he told them. This will be the decisive battle. Every soldier we have must be ready. Every trap must be set. Every advantage of terrain must be used. Katie spoke up. What about civilian casualties? If they bring that many troops, some will break through our lines. The tunnels will protect civilians. Lisa assured her. Your job is to make sure so many Zarkonians do not make it through that it matters. Across the forests, human forces prepared for the largest battle of the war. They positioned artillery that had been hidden in caves. They set up machine gun nests in elevated positions. They prepared traps, mines, and obstacles, and they waited the Zarkonian assault began at dawn 3 days later. Massive troop carriers landed at every forest edge simultaneously. 50,000 soldiers poured out. Supported by armored vehicles and air support, Vexter commanded from orbit, determined to personally oversee the victory he had been promised. Advance into the forests, he ordered. Overwhelming force will crush them. They cannot hide from 50,000 troops. The Zarkonian army moved forward in waves. They learned from previous mistakes. They spread out, used scouts, and moved cautiously, but they were still fighting on unfamiliar ground. But they were still fighting on unfamiliar ground. First human response came from artillery, hidden guns fired from positions miles away, targeting the massed Zarkonian formations. Shells rained down on the aliens before they could locate the source. Then, the forest itself seemed to fight back. Trees rigged to fall blocked advance routes. Hidden pits swallowed armored vehicles. Tripwires triggered explosives. The Zarkonians were taking casualties before they even saw human soldiers. Katie's team held a strategic ridge in the Cascades. Below them, a Zarkonian force of 2,000 troops advanced up the valley. She waited until they were in the perfect position. Now, she whispered into her radio. Explosives detonated along the ridge, sending a rock slide down into the valley. Boulders and debris crashed into the Zarkonian formation, causing chaos as they scrambled to recover. Katie's soldiers opened fire from protected positions. The battle raged for hours. The Zarkonians had numbers. But the humans had preparation and knowledge of terrain. Every valley became a killing ground, every ridge a defensive fortress, every forest path a potential ambush. Ryan Cole's team was fighting in the Appalachian forests when they encountered Krelzak and his Shadow Legion again. This time, both sides were ready for a real fight. The combat was intense. Shadow Legion, hunters versus human forest commandos. Both sides used camouflage, tactics, and terrain advantages, but the humans had one edge. They were fighting for their home. Ryan engaged Krelzak directly, using hand-to-hand combat skills the alien had not expected. Earth's gravity was stronger than most Zarkonian worlds. Humans were stronger as a result. Ryan used that advantage, overpowering the larger alien. "You came to our world," Ryan said as he pinned Krelzak down. "You threatened our families. You tried to destroy our forests. Did you really think we would just surrender?" Krelzak looked into Ryan's eyes and saw something that shocked him. Not hatred, but determination. These humans were not fighting out of rage. They were fighting for survival, for their planet, for their future. By nightfall, the Zarkonian assault was failing. They had lost thousands of soldiers. Their formations were broken. Their supply lines were cut. And worst of all, their morale was shattered. Vexter received the reports with growing horror. His grand offensive, his overwhelming force, was being defeated by guerrilla fighters in the wilderness for the first time since the invasion began. He considered the impossible, that the Zarkonian Empire might actually lose this war.